I'm Ron, that's my Ferrari 430 Scuderia, and I'm changing the clutch. And these are all the parts I've gotten so far, and I think everything I need, or almost everything I need, including some special tools. Now you see I've got two halves here of the orange band there. Everything on the right of that half goes on the engine side. Everything on the left of that orange stripe goes on the gearbox side. So let's go through this real quick. Of course, the main thing is the clutch and the pressure plate. And then we have behind that clutch will be the flywheel, and the flywheel is held with this washer that they say to replace every time you take off the flywheel, as well as the 8 bolts that hold on the flywheel. Beyond the clutch and pressure plate is, of course, the pilot bearing, which is in the hole of the clutch plate in the engine. And, of course, the rear main seal of the engine. Now, the rear main seal does not need to be replaced, and in fact the flywheel doesn't even need to be taken off to get the pilot bearing out and get it replaced. But I'm taking the flywheel off no matter what, and we'll be wanting to replace the seal since I have everything accessible. So some of the tools that we've got is the alignment tool, clutch alignment tool, special tool that fits into the pilot bearing when it's in the engine and through the clutch, nice and snug, so that when you're putting the new clutch on, it's centered properly within the engine. There's also this Hill Engineering press here to push in the rear main seal. Now, these are just held in place by these threads here, but in actuality what happens is you take these 4 studs and you push them through these unthreaded holes, and you thread them through the flywheel onto the block, and you push the seal into place because it's 100mm diameter as the seal is. Interestingly enough, the Scuderia seal is different than the F430 seal. 12mm thick as opposed to 10mm for the 430, I believe. On the gearbox side, we have the clutch position sensor, it's a Hall effect sensor that detects the position of a magnet, which the placement magnet comes with it. Then separately is the pin that holds the little case in place that holds the magnet on the pilot bearing, the throwout bearing, which I'll show you in a moment. We've also got a couple little O-ring seals that'll go on to the gearbox assembly. We've got a bigger O-ring here that goes onto the gearbox assembly where the oil tube is underneath on the bottom left if you're looking at the bell housing from the front. Then we've got the flange, Hill Engineering flange, very expensive piece here. And we have the thrust slash release slash throwout bearing, Hill Engineering as well. Now this one does not rotate as freely, brand new, as the one that's in there, but I don't expect it to. Now you see the throwout bearing goes against the clutch and pushes in so that the clutch is released and lets go. So this throwout bearing slides on the flange, and on the flange we have the what's called end of stroke studs that'll end up going into 2 spots here. Let me get this oriented right. Upper here, I believe, or no, that's the left. And then you have the springs to push the clutch back into place, which fit into these indents here in the flange. So I've got the new springs, and I've got these new bolts, which are in the parts list as well, here, that go to the last 2 holes going into the bell housing. And this all sits on top of that. Not exactly on top, you'll see that those hooks there go underneath. So when you're putting it together, you have to put the end of stroke pins over those hooks there. But the springs push it back, and there you can see how that all works. Okay, and then lastly we have, we have the O-ring that goes on the oil tank that fits on top of the gearbox. Don't want to forget those. And the gearbox coolant hoses that we removed. Those are new washers, crush washers for that as well. I've also got a breather for the gearbox on order, waiting for that to come in. And then there's also this special wrench, the end of stroke wrench here, to remove these, because as this is on top here, to get behind that and tighten the bell housing to go around and to get it out like such, which we'll show you later. I don't know if I could do that without a special tool, but using something like this, a crow's foot, extension, a couple of unions maybe, I could mimic the same thing. We'll try it and see. And that's the rundown on the parts.